A tech billionaire flies back from London to take over his late grandfather's prestigious law firm, only to encounter a 5-year-old boy carrying the exact same birthmark as him. But when he discovers who the child's mother is, his entire world comes crashing down. If you're new to our channel, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Sarah stood motionless in the entrance of her small studio apartment, her graduation cap still perched on her head from the ceremony she'd just left. She had rushed straight from the university auditorium, diploma clutched in her sweaty palm, bursting with excitement to share the news with Marcus, her boyfriend of 4 years. They were supposed to celebrate tonight, champagne, dinner, and wedding plans. The invitations were already ordered. Her dress was hanging in the closet back home. But now, staring into her living room, Sarah felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. There sat Marcus on her own couch, and curled up against him like they belonged together was Kimberly, her roommate, her closest friend, the person she trusted most in the world. The apartment reeked of wine and secrets. The blinds were drawn tight. Kimberly wore one of Marcus's oversized shirts, her hair messy like she'd just woken up. Marcus's hand rested casually on her bare leg. Sarah didn't need an explanation. The evidence was written all over their guilty faces. Her fingers trembled around her diploma folder. Marcus's eyes went wide when he spotted her. "Sarah." Kimberly jerked upright, panic flashing across her face. "You said she wouldn't be back until midnight." That single sentence shattered Sarah's heart into a million pieces. The betrayal cut so deep she could barely breathe. "I came to tell you I graduated summa cum laude," Sarah whispered, her voice cracking. "Top of my class. I wanted to celebrate with you." The silence that followed was deafening. Kimberly slowly pulled the shirt down to cover herself. Marcus stood up awkwardly, running his hands through his hair. "Sarah, listen. I know this looks terrible, but it looks exactly like what it is." Sarah cut him off, still frozen in the doorway. "And you're not even ashamed enough to hide it properly." Kimberly shifted uncomfortably. "It just happened. We didn't plan this." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "But you didn't stop it either." She stared at both of them, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "I was out there working my ass off, dreaming of our future together, while you two were in here destroying it." Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Sarah took a step backward, her voice eerily calm. "You know what? You deserve each other." Then she turned and walked out, still clutching her diploma like it was the only thing keeping her together. By 10:30 p.m., Sarah found herself sitting alone at Pulse nightclub, nursing a drink she hadn't touched, her hand shaking slightly from shock and rage. She'd never been to a club by herself before. She wasn't even sure why she'd come here. All she knew was that she couldn't go home. Not tonight. Not after what she'd witnessed. Across the crowded room, David was surrounded by his college buddies. It was his farewell party. In 3 days, he'd be flying to London for a major career opportunity with an international tech firm. His friends had dragged him out to celebrate, but honestly, he wasn't feeling it. The music was too loud, the drinks were overpriced, and he kept thinking about everything he was leaving behind. That's when he noticed her, a young woman sitting alone at the bar, still wearing her graduation gown, her cap sitting on the counter next to an untouched cocktail. She looked like someone who'd just had their world turned upside down. Her eyes were red and puffy, her expression hollow. Something about her drew him in. Maybe it was the pain written all over her face, or maybe it was the way she sat there with such quiet dignity despite obviously falling apart inside. He told his friends he'd be right back and walked over to her table. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Mind if I sit here? You look like you could use some company." Sarah looked up, startled. "Do I know you?" "No, but you look like someone who's had the worst day of their life. Sometimes talking to a stranger helps." She stared at him for a moment. "I don't even know why I'm here." "Want to talk about it?" She looked down at her drink. I just walked in on my boyfriend with my best friend. 4 years down the drain. David winced. Damn, that's brutal. Yeah, Sarah said, taking her first sip. And now I'm here drinking something that tastes like regret, talking to someone I've never met. I could leave if you want, he offered politely. She shook her head. No, stay. You're better company than my thoughts right now. He smiled slightly. Well, that's the nicest thing anyone said to me all week. He signaled the bartender and ordered another round. When the drinks arrived, he raised his glass. To new beginnings and leaving the trash where it belongs. Despite everything, Sarah cracked a small smile. You're not a therapist, are you? Just a guy who knows what heartbreak feels like. She took a longer sip this time. Want to hear the pathetic part? I'm listening. And so she told him everything. The years of waiting, the plans they'd made, the ring he'd promised, the betrayal, the humiliation. He just listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or offering an understanding smile. You know what kills me the most, she said, swirling her drink. I saved myself for marriage. 22 years old and still a virgin because I believed in waiting for the right person. David raised his eyebrows. Seriously? Yeah, I was so proud of it too. Thought it made me special or something. Guess I was wrong. She finished her drink in one gulp. I'm done saving things for people who don't deserve them. David poured them both another round. Sarah leaned in closer, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. Do you want it? David frowned. Want what? My virginity. I'm tired of carrying it around like some precious gift. Clearly, it didn't stop him from choosing someone else. He froze, searching her eyes. Are you sure about this? You've been drinking, and you're hurt. She nodded slowly. You don't know me. I don't know you. That's perfect. No complications, no expectations. Just help me forget this nightmare of a day. David didn't respond immediately. Instead, he pulled out his phone. Let me call us a cab. No, Sarah said firmly. There's a hotel across the street. Take me there. In the quiet hotel room, everything felt surreal. No dramatic music, no passionate declarations, just two broken people seeking comfort in each other's arms. It wasn't about love or desire. It was about healing, about taking back control, about writing over a terrible day with something that felt like choice. When Sarah woke up the next morning, the sun was just beginning to peek through the curtains. David was still asleep beside her, his arm draped across the empty space where she'd been lying. She looked at him for a long moment, this stranger who'd shown her more kindness in one night than Marcus had in months. Quietly, she gathered her clothes and slipped out of the room. No goodbyes, no phone numbers, no promises. Just a memory of a night when two people found each other in their darkest moments. David woke up an hour later to an empty bed and cold sheets. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, looking around the room for any trace of her. Her graduation cap was gone. Her dress was gone. Even the scent of her perfume had faded. He didn't even know her last name. They'd shared their pain, their stories, their bodies, but somehow never exchanged the basic details. No phone number, no address, not even which university she graduated from. He stared at the empty pillow beside him, feeling a strange hollow ache in his chest. Whatever last night had been, it was over now. Or so he thought. 3 months later, Sarah would discover that some nights leave permanent reminders. Sarah returned to her apartment just as the sun was fully up, walking slowly like someone returning from a crime scene. Her graduation gown was wrinkled, her hair disheveled, her eyes tired and bloodshot. She locked the door behind her and just stood there in the silence, letting the guilt wash over her. The betrayal from Marcus and Kimberly still stung like an open wound. But now there was this new weight. She'd slept with a complete stranger. She didn't know his last name, his profession, or even if he lived in the same city. For all she knew, he was just passing through town for one night. Sarah sank onto her bed and buried her face in her hands. What were you thinking, Sarah? What kind of desperate person does something like this? She wanted to rewind time, take back the alcohol, the tease, the decision. But she couldn't. After wallowing for a while, she forced herself to stand up, take a deep breath, and mutter, "Time to move on." She had graduation paperwork to file, transcripts to request, and law school applications to submit. No time to drown in regret. A few days later, she moved back in with her parents, and that's where the real drama began. Her mother didn't even let her finish bringing her boxes inside before launching into the interrogation. "So, you and Marcus broke up just like that? After 4 years and all the money we spent on engagement party deposits?" Sarah set down her suitcase carefully. "Mom, can we not do this right now?" "Don't mom me. After all the prayers I said for that relationship, he still chose that skinny girl over you, the one who failed the bar exam twice." Her father sat in his recliner like a judge presiding over a case. He didn't say anything at first, just shook his head slowly. Finally, he looked at her and asked, "What's your plan now?" Sarah opened her mouth to answer, but her mother jumped back in. "You need to focus on law school now. Clean yourself up, hold your head high, and show them what they lost." Sarah simply nodded and escaped to her childhood bedroom, grateful for the temporary reprieve. But 4 weeks later, when Sarah missed her period, temporary became permanent. At first, she told herself it was stress, emotional trauma, hormonal changes from all the upheaval in her life. But when 1 month turned into 2, and morning sickness joined the party, she couldn't deny it anymore. She sat on her bathroom floor with 3 pregnancy tests lined up in front of her like evidence in a court case. Each one showed the same result, 2 clear pink lines. She stared at them in silence for a full minute. Then she screamed, not from fear, but from the crushing realization that her life had just become infinitely more complicated. When her parents found out, World War III erupted in their house. Her mother went straight to the backyard and started shouting at the sky like she was calling down divine intervention. "Who did this to my daughter? Lord, strike down whoever ruined her future." Her father packed her bags without saying a word. That was his style, silent punishment through relocation. "This shame cannot stay under my roof. Call your grandmother. She can deal with this disgrace." When Sarah arrived at her grandmother's house with her suitcases, the front door opened before she could knock. Grandma Dolores stood there in her best Sunday dress, sipping coffee from her favorite china cup. She looked Sarah up and down with the kind of gaze that could see through souls. "So, you brought scandal to my doorstep," she said calmly. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Grandma, I'm so sorry." Grandma Dolores took another sip of her coffee. "You're lucky I just made fresh cornbread. Come inside before the neighbors start gossiping." That evening, Sarah finally broke down completely. She told her grandmother everything: the heartbreak, the club, the stranger, the pregnancy test. Grandma Dolores didn't gasp or cry or lecture. She just sat with her hands folded, nodding occasionally. After a long silence, she said, "Then you need to find him." Sarah blinked. "Find who?" "The man who helped create this situation. He deserves to know he's going to be a father." "But Grandma, I don't even know his last name. I don't have his number. I don't know anything about him." "Then we'll figure it out. That child is going to have questions someday, and you better have answers that don't involve pointing at the ceiling." The next morning, Grandma Dolores drove Sarah back to Pulse nightclub herself, wearing her best wig and biggest sunglasses. When they reached the front desk, Grandma did all the talking. "My granddaughter was here 3 months ago with a young man. We're not trying to cause trouble. We just need his contact information." The receptionist barely looked up. We don't give out customer information. It's against policy." Grandma Dolores leaned forward and removed her sunglasses. "Do you know who I am?" Please." "Just a name? Just the name of the man who changed my granddaughter's destiny." The receptionist shook her head firmly. I'm sorry, but no. As they walked away, Grandma Dolores muttered, "One night of comfort, 9 months of consequences. Life doesn't play fair." Back at law school, Sarah threw herself into her studies like her life depended on it, because it did. She walked with her head held high even as her belly began to show. The whispers followed her everywhere. "She's pregnant. Who's the father? I heard he's some rich guy who disappeared. Maybe she doesn't even know who he is." One girl had the audacity to ask, "Are you keeping it?" Sarah looked her dead in the eye and replied, "Are you keeping your ignorance?" At the grocery store one afternoon, Sarah was picking up prenatal vitamins when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Well, look who's glowing with shame." She turned to find Marcus standing there with a smirk on his face, his eyes focused on her growing belly. "So you really went and got knocked up by some random guy? Classy move, Sarah." Sarah smiled sweetly. "And you really opened your mouth in public again. Brave choice. I was going to marry you. You could have had everything. You were going to marry Kimberly too. Maybe your ego as well." He scoffed. "Who's the father? Some loser you picked up at a bar." "I'll tell you when you tell me who your real father is." He stared at her, speechless. Sarah grabbed her groceries, stepped closer, and whispered, "Go back to being irrelevant. You wear it well." Then she walked away like she owned the place. That night, back at Grandma's house, Sarah rubbed her belly gently and whispered, "We're going to be just fine. Better than fine." Meanwhile, somewhere in London, a man who had no idea she existed was about to have his world turned upside down. 5 years had passed since Sarah's life imploded and rebuilt itself from scratch. Now, standing in her home office in downtown Atlanta, wearing a sharp navy blazer while her 5-year-old son Caleb ran around in oversized sunglasses and his grandmother's slippers, Sarah could confidently say she'd not just survived, she'd thrived. Caleb had arrived on a stormy Wednesday night. Chubby cheeks, powerful lungs, a head full of curly hair, and a distinctive dark birthmark on his left shoulder shaped like a curved comma. The doctors said it was unusual but harmless. Sarah just stared at it and whispered, "You're carrying a mark that tells a story I don't even understand yet." From day one, Caleb ruled her world. He had his mother's determination, his great-grandmother's sharp wit, and a stubbornness that seemed to come pre-installed in his DNA. After law school, Sarah had taken every case she could find: custody battles, property disputes, insurance fraud, even a woman who tried to sue her neighbor for stealing her newspaper. She won them all. She built her reputation case by case until her name started opening doors before she even walked through them. At 27, Sarah was a courtroom warrior, sharp mind, crisp suits, and a reputation for never backing down. Meanwhile, Caleb had grown into a full-blown character with opinions about everything. "Mommy," he said one Saturday morning while eating cereal, "is my daddy invisible or just lost?" Sarah nearly choked on her coffee. "What do you mean?" "Well, he's not here, but you said he's real. So maybe he's lost like when I lost my toy car under the couch." Sarah paused. "He lives far away, sweetie." Caleb squinted suspiciously. "How far? Like at the store far, or like on the moon far?" "Eat your cereal, Caleb." At church, when someone asked Caleb if he missed having a daddy, he replied, "No, I have 2 moms. My regular mom and my great-grandma. That's like having a mom with superpowers." Grandma Dolores nearly dropped her purse laughing. Caleb was the king of interrupting important moments. One day, Sarah was practicing a closing argument for a major case, pacing around the living room with dramatic gestures. Caleb walked in, clapped twice, and announced, "Okay, okay, okay. That's enough pretend court. Can we have mac and cheese now?" Then one day, Sarah opened her email to find a message that would change everything. The subject line read, "Exclusive opportunity, senior associate position at Reynolds and Associates law firm." It was one of the top 3 law firms in the state. High-profile cases, celebrity clients, national media attention. We've been following your career closely. Your track record is impressive. We'd like you to handle a complex inheritance case for our firm. If successful, you'll be offered a permanent senior associate position with full partnership track. Sarah read it 3 times before it sank in. Grandma Dolores walked into the room carrying a plate of cookies. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost? Sarah turned her laptop around. Read this. Grandma Dolores put on her reading glasses and read slowly. Then she screamed loud enough to wake the neighborhood. Jesus, my granddaughter has been discovered by the big leagues. Caleb dropped his coloring book immediately. What happened? Did someone famous call us? Sarah grinned. A very important law firm wants Mommy to work for them. Caleb tilted his head thoughtfully. Do they have a playground there? Sarah burst into laughter. Grandma Dolores shook her head proudly. Whether they have swings or swimming pools, they've called my granddaughter to come collect her destiny. The next morning at breakfast, Sarah made the official announcement. I start at the new firm next week. Caleb's spoon stopped halfway to his mouth. Will there be other kids there for me to play with? Sarah nearly choked on her orange juice. Excuse me. I'm just asking. Big offices probably have big families working there. Grandma Dolores slapped the table and cackled. This boy, where did you come from? At the firm, they gave Sarah a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows, a mahogany desk that cost more than her car, and a case file so thick it could double as a doorstop. Her assignment, a multi-million-dollar inheritance dispute involving a tech mogul's secret child. The irony wasn't lost on her, but she focused on the work. She was here to win. Meanwhile, Caleb kept life interesting at home. One day, he told Grandma Dolores, if you give me vegetables instead of chicken nuggets again, I'm going to call my daddy and tell him you're being mean to me. Grandma didn't miss a beat. Good luck finding his phone number, baby. I've been looking for 5 years. Another time, Sarah found Caleb talking to his reflection in the bathroom mirror. What are you doing? She asked. Practicing my introduction speech for when my daddy comes home. I want to be ready. Sarah's heart clenched. What are you going to say? Hi, I'm Caleb. This is my birthmark. Why did you go away? And can we get ice cream? But it wasn't always jokes and laughter. Some nights, Sarah would find Caleb sitting quietly on the couch, hugging his stuffed elephant. Are you okay, baby? I'm just thinking about my daddy. Does he know I exist? Sarah sat beside him, pulling him close. I don't have all the answers yet, sweetheart. But someday, I'll tell you everything I know. Caleb nodded thoughtfully. He better be nice, or I'm not sharing my toys with him. A few days later, Caleb came home from kindergarten with his bottom lip pushed out and his eyes watery. Caleb, what happened? He sniffled. Tyler said I don't have a real family because there's no daddy in our pictures. He said maybe I was adopted from aliens. Sarah's chest tightened with protective fury. She pulled him into her arms and kissed his forehead. You are not from outer space. You are my baby boy, the best thing that ever happened to me. And you do have a daddy. He's just not here right now. Caleb looked up at her. Do I have to be nice to Tyler tomorrow? Absolutely not. The next morning, Sarah walked Caleb to school herself and asked to speak with his teacher privately. Mrs. Patterson, I was hoping we could discuss what happened yesterday with Tyler. The teacher smiled knowingly. Actually, I was hoping to speak with you too. There was a small incident after you picked up Caleb. Sarah tensed. What kind of incident? Mrs. Patterson tried to hide her smile. Tyler made another comment about Caleb not having a father. Before I could intervene, your son stood up very calmly and said, My mommy is a lawyer. If you say mean things about my family again, she'll sue your parents and take all your toys away. Sarah's eyes widened. He said that. He wasn't finished. He added, Plus, you still can't tie your shoes right, and my mommy can do everything. Then he sat down and continued culling like nothing happened. Sarah cleared her throat, trying not to laugh. I'll talk to him about appropriate responses. Oh, don't worry too much. Tyler hasn't bothered him since. Sarah walked back to her car, closed the door, and exploded with laughter. Sue your parents and take your toys away, she wheezed, wiping tears from her eyes. Who raised this child? That afternoon, Sarah walked into her new office feeling invincible. She had conquered heartbreak, raised a brilliant child alone, and built a career from nothing. Now she had her name on a door and a little warrior at home who could take on the world with nothing but attitude and creativity. Meanwhile, 6 years had passed since David Kingsley left Atlanta for London. He hadn't left because of heartbreak or some romantic mystery. He'd left for his career. He'd received an incredible offer from a prestigious international tech firm, complete with relocation package and fast track to executive leadership. But in quiet moments, usually late at night in his London penthouse, David's mind would drift back to that one night. That girl with the broken heart and fierce spirit who'd vanished before sunrise. She'd never told him her name, never left a note, never given him any way to find her again. For reasons he couldn't explain, he'd never stopped thinking about her. About 2 years into his London stint, he finally opened up to his friends about it during a night out in Shoreditch. Bro, serious question, his friend Michael said, leaning across the table. When's the last time you even mentioned a woman? You're like a monk with a trust fund. His other friend James nodded. No girlfriend stories, no dating apps, just you and your boring corporate success stories. David smirked. I had a one-night stand right before I moved to London. Michael nearly spit out his beer. What? David, I plan everything 6 months in advance, Kingsley. It was different, David said quietly. James raised an eyebrow. Go on. She was heartbroken. We talked all night. One thing led to another. She was gone before I woke up. No name, no contact, nothing. Michael blinked. Hold up. You didn't get her name. No. James leaned back, laughing. Maybe she left because you were terrible in bed. Michael clapped his hands. Exactly. What if she rated you 1 star and bounced before sunrise? David rolled his eyes. You guys are idiots. But you haven't forgotten her, Michael said, narrowing his eyes. It's been years, and you're still bringing her up. David paused, staring into his drink. I haven't forgotten her, no. Why? You barely knew her. I don't know. There was something about the way she carried herself. Like she was breaking apart inside, but refusing to let anyone see it. She was unforgettable. There was a moment of silence. Then James raised his glass. To the mystery woman who scrambled our boy's brain and disappeared like Houdini. They clinked glasses, but only David knew the truth. It wasn't about the mystery or even the intimacy. It was about connection. That night had mattered in a way he still couldn't explain. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Sarah was negotiating with her 5-year-old like she was mediating a hostage situation. It was a federal holiday, so no school. Grandma Dolores had gone to visit relatives in South Carolina and wasn't answering her phone. The babysitter had called in sick with what sounded like the plague. Sarah looked at her son's determined face and nearly cried. Caleb, please don't do this to me. They were standing in front of the corporate daycare center on the 2nd floor of her office building. Caleb had planted his feet like he was staging a protest. I don't want to stay here, he said firmly, arms crossed, his forehead wrinkled in disapproval. Sarah was already sweating in her new suit. What's wrong now? Caleb pointed across the daycare. That baby over there has been crying since we walked in. She sounds like a fire truck, Mommy. Sarah followed his gaze. And that little boy tried to eat Play-Doh. The blue kind. He was chewing it like gum. Caleb shuddered dramatically. Plus, the lady in charge smells like old milk. Sarah covered her face with her hands. Jesus, help me. I'm 5, Mommy. I shouldn't have to babysit babies who eat Play-Doh. Sarah knelt down to his eye level. Listen to me carefully. Grandma is out of town. The sitter is sick. And my new boss from London is starting today. I need to look professional and competent. Caleb squinted. Is he handsome? What does that have to do with anything? I need to know if we're using our good manners or just regular manners. Sarah stayed at her child and started praying internally. Caleb, I'm begging you. Stay here. Be good. No escaping, no organizing rebellions, no teaching the other kids inappropriate songs. Caleb uncrossed his arms. What's in it for me? Ice cream with chocolate sauce. What kind of ice cream? Whatever kind you want. With gummy bears. With gummy bears. And can we watch cartoons tonight? Yes, Caleb. Cartoons, ice cream, and I'll even let you stay up an extra 30 minutes. Caleb considered this carefully, then nodded. Deal, but only because I love you and because you promised gummy bears. Sarah turned to Miss Rodriguez behind the desk. Please watch him like a hawk. He's creative. Miss Rodriguez laughed. Don't worry, honey. We've got him covered. Caleb walked into the daycare like someone entering witness protection. He picked the chair closest to the window and sat down with a dramatic sigh. I'm only doing this because you're stressed, he called out, and because you promised extra gummy bears. Sarah took the elevator to the 15th floor, looked at her reflection in the polished doors, and shook her head. This child didn't come to play games. Caleb behaved himself for exactly 12 minutes. That was a new record. He sat quietly in the corner, building an elaborate tower out of blocks while the other kids napped or played with baby toys. Then he spotted something interesting, a red balloon that had escaped from the play area and was floating down the hallway. His eyes followed it with laser focus. Then his feet followed his eyes. Before Miss Rodriguez could say, Caleb, where are you going? The boy had already slipped through the glass door and was chasing that balloon like it owed him money. The balloon bounced once, twice, then floated toward the main lobby. Caleb followed it with single-minded determination. Then wham! He collided with something tall, solid, and expensive-looking and landed on the marble floor with a dramatic OOF. A man in an impeccable suit immediately crouched down. Oh my God! Are you hurt? Caleb looked up at him with wide eyes. You walk really fast. Are you late for something important? David blinked, caught off guard by the kid's directness. I'm sorry, buddy. Are you okay? I'm fine. My shirt is tough, Caleb said, dusting himself off like a tiny superhero. What are you doing walking so fast? David couldn't help but smile. I'm heading to a meeting. What are you doing running around by yourself? Where's your mom? She's working, Caleb said proudly. She's the smartest lawyer in this whole building. David chuckled. Really? What's her name? My mommy's name is... Caleb paused and squinted up at him suspiciously. Wait, who are you? My mommy says I shouldn't talk to strangers. David smiled. I'm David. I'm the CEO of this company. Caleb's eyes went wide. You're the big boss. That means you're super rich. Something like that. Cool. Please be extra nice to my mommy. She works really hard and sometimes forgets to eat lunch. David laughed. I'll try my best. Then Caleb reached up to scratch his shoulder, and his shirt shifted slightly. That's when David saw it, a birthmark, dark and curved, exactly like his own. His smile disappeared. His chest tightened. He stared at the mark, then at the boy's face, then back at the mark. Who's your daddy? He asked quietly, his voice barely steady. Caleb tilted his head, about to answer, when David's assistant came rushing down the hallway in a panic. Sir, the board meeting started 30 minutes ago. Everyone's waiting for you upstairs. David blinked, trying to focus. Right. The meeting. He turned back quickly to Caleb. What did you say your mommy's name was? Caleb smiled brightly. I'm Caleb Johnson. My mommy is Sarah. She's the best lawyer you'll ever meet. David just stood there, frozen. Sarah, as he walked toward the elevator in a daze, Caleb adjusted his shirt and headed back toward the daycare like it was just another Tuesday morning. Miss Rodriguez finally caught up with him at the door. Caleb, where did you disappear to? I was chasing a balloon, he said matter-of-factly. Then I met the CEO. He's really rich, and I told him to be extra nice to my mommy because she works too hard. Then he walked back into the daycare like he hadn't just turned someone's entire world upside down. David sat at the head of the boardroom table wearing his usual calm face, but nothing inside him was calm. His eyes were on the presentation, but his mind wasn't. It was stuck on a little boy with soft eyes and a birthmark that matched his. He blinked. Someone was talking about quarterly projections. Another person showed slides about growth strategies. A few partners nodded, laughed, clapped. But David, he couldn't breathe properly. Could Caleb be mine? He adjusted his collar, then tapped his pen on the table without rhythm. It was already the third time someone beside him gently nudged him to focus. He nodded politely each time, but inside his head was spinning. That birthmark, that smile, that name, Caleb, and the way he'd said, "My mommy is the best lawyer in this whole building." When the meeting finally ended, after what felt like 10 years, David didn't even respond to the handshakes. He just stood and walked straight out. He took the elevator to the first floor, shoulders tight, heart pounding. The moment he stepped into the daycare, he didn't bother with small talk. "Is Caleb still here?" he asked. The receptionist smiled politely. "Oh, no, sir. He left with his mom not too long ago." Just like that, she was gone again. David clenched his jaw. "Okay, thank you." He turned, walked out slowly, and pressed the elevator button with shaking hands. In his office, David tried to breathe, but the air felt heavy. He sat for 5 seconds, then stood. Sat again, stood. Walked to the window, walked to the door, and sat again. Why today? Why now? Was the universe trying to play with his heart again? Meanwhile, Sarah was in the car with Caleb, trying to survive. "You promised ice cream," Caleb said from the back seat. "Yes, I did. We're going to that small place near the pharmacy," Sarah replied. Caleb clapped. "Yay, I want strawberry and vanilla." "1 scoop, Caleb. Just 1. Caleb gasped like someone insulted his bloodline. "Just 1. Mommy, I met a rich man today." Sarah looked up through the mirror. "Excuse me." "Your boss, Mr. David. He's so rich. He doesn't smell like old milk. He smells like a new car." Sarah blinked. "Wait, you met David?" "Yes, he was in the lobby." "Mommy, he's very handsome and he talks gently like cartoon kings." Sarah almost missed her turning. "Caleb, what were you doing in the lobby?" "I was chasing a balloon." "Caleb, you were supposed to stay in the daycare. What if something happened to you?" "Something did happen," Caleb said sweetly. "I met your boss. I like him. Can we take him home to be my daddy?" Sarah hit the brake harder than necessary. "MIA, I'm just saying. I like him. He smells like success." Sarah covered her face with one hand. At the restaurant, Caleb picked the biggest table and sat like a king. He looked around the menu like someone inspecting a contract. "Can I have sprinkles, Mommy?" Sarah nodded tiredly. "With syrup?" "Yes, 2 gummy worms." "You'll eat the worms first." Caleb grinned. "Deal." While eating, he continued. "Mommy, his suit was clean like freshly ironed by angels." Sarah shook her head. "You're 5, not 50. And his shoes, I saw my face inside them. Mommy, what if he's my daddy?" Sarah dropped her spoon. "Caleb, please enough. I'm just saying you're single." "He's single. I saw no ring." "Caleb, drink water and rest." Back at home, Caleb wasn't done. He picked Sarah's phone and handed it to her. Call Grandma Dolores. When Grandma picked up, Caleb didn't wait. Grandma, Mummy's boss is so fine and his cologne smells like soft money. Can we make him our daddy? Sarah snatched the phone. Grandma, please don't mind him. Grandma Dolores laughed so loud it echoed. That child needs deliverance. Real one. That night after Sarah put Caleb to bed and finally breathed, somewhere else in the city, David lay on his bed wide awake. He stayed at the ceiling. His heart was racing. Sarah, that's the name the little boy had said. Sarah. His mind went back 6 years ago to the hotel room. The woman who cried, who talked, who touched his soul in one night and vanished like smoke. They never exchanged names, never planned anything. But Caleb had his birthmark and his mother's name was Sarah. Could it be her? David sat up in bed and reached for his phone. He typed a message to his PA. Tell HR, I need full employee record files for every staff named Sarah. Email them to me tonight. Then he dropped the phone and sat quietly in the dark. What if? What if she never disappeared? What if she's been here this whole time? It was 9:43 p.m. David sat in bed with the lights off. The only light in the room came from his tablet screen. He had received the message from HR minutes ago. All employee records of every staff named Sarah had been attached. There were 10 files in total. He opened the first one slowly. It was a Sarah from admin, not her. The second Sarah worked in finance, not her either. By the time he reached the 5th file, his breathing was uneven. His fingers trembled each time he swiped. By the 8th, he had almost convinced himself that maybe he was wrong. Maybe he was reading too much into the birthmark. Maybe the little boy was just a coincidence. He didn't want to believe that, but doubt was starting to creep in. Still, something made him tap on the 9th file, and then he froze. Her picture appeared. Her name, Sarah Johnson. Her face was older now, more mature. But it was her. The same eyes, the same mouth, the same woman who had been in his hotel room 6 years ago, the woman who cried beside him, the woman who disappeared before dawn, the woman whose name he never got until now. David sat up slowly, staring at the screen like it had just opened a door in his chest. His eyes dropped to the lower part of the file. Marital status, single. Dependent, one child's name, Caleb Johnson. He dropped the tablet. Tears filled his eyes before he even realized he was crying. Caleb, he was her son. Was he his son, too? His whole body shook. He stood up, paced the room, ran both hands over his face. He sat back down, picked up the tablet, scrolled up, scrolled down as if the details would suddenly change. But they didn't. She was real, and she had been working in his company this whole time. And Caleb, sweet, smart, funny Caleb, could be his son. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. The air in the room felt heavy. The silence around him made every thought louder. By morning, his eyes were red from staying awake. But his mind was made up. He had to tell someone. He went to the next room and knocked gently. "Grandpa," he said as he pushed the door open. Grandpa William was sitting by the window, already dressed and sipping tea like a king. "You didn't sleep," he said calmly without turning. David sat down. "Grandpa, I have to tell you something." William raised an eyebrow. "It's serious, then?" David nodded. "Do you remember 6 years ago that girl I told you about? The one-night stand before I left for London?" Grandpa blinked. "Yes, the one who ghosted you." "She didn't ghost me. She didn't know I was going to remember her. We didn't even exchange names. And I found her. She works here. Her name is Sarah." Grandpa didn't speak. David took a deep breath. "She has a son. His name is Caleb. He's 5. He has the same birthmark I have." William leaned forward. "Are you saying?" "I think Caleb is my son." For the first time in a long while, Grandpa William was speechless. David ran a hand through his hair. "Grandpa, I don't know what to do. My whole body is shaking. I want to see her." I want to know the truth. Grandpa took a slow sip of tea, then placed the cup down. Then go find her, he said simply. If he's yours, bring him home where he belongs. It was 8:04 a.m. when David called his PA into the office. He had barely slept, but he was dressed like he'd had 8 hours of rest. His suit sharp, his voice calm. But inside, his mind was on fire. Schedule a meeting with attorney Sarah Johnson, he said without blinking. The PA nodded and walked out quickly. David tapped his pen, stared at the wall, stared at his wristwatch. At 8:17 a.m., his phone rang. It was the PA. So, attorney Sarah Johnson is not on seat. She's in court today for a client hearing. David slammed the pen down, eyes narrowed. Damn it, he muttered under his breath. Of all days, why today? He stood up, paced the office like he was trying to outrun his thoughts. By noon, he called again, still not back. At 2:04 p.m., David had had enough. He grabbed his car keys. I'm going to the court myself, he whispered. He didn't care what room she was in. He didn't care if the judge threw him out. He needed to see her. He needed to know if the woman from that night was truly the woman who gave birth to his son. But just as he opened his office door, his PA came running. Sir, she's back. Attorney Sarah just returned from court. David stopped, closed the door slowly. Send her to me now. Meanwhile, Sarah had just walked into her office, exhausted. Her client's hearing had been messy. 2 brothers fighting over one plot of land their father left behind. There was shouting. There were tears. One of them even threatened to bring a native doctor to court. Sarah had held it all together. Barely. She dropped her bag on her chair and was about to kick off her shoes when the call came from HR. The CEO wants to see you immediately. Her hand froze. Why? She whispered to herself. What did I do? Her mind started spinning. I haven't filed any wrong brief. I didn't miss court. Then her heart dropped. Caleb. She grabbed her head. This child will not kill me. She had a flashback of Caleb at the restaurant talking about David's shoes, his cologne, how he should be his daddy. Oh God, what did he say to him? She walked down the hall like she was going to the gallows. Each step heavier than the last. She knocked. Come in, David said. She opened the door, ready to kneel and start begging, but what she saw knocked the breath out of her. She stopped. Her bag dropped from her hand. Standing behind the CEO's desk was him, the man, the stranger from 6 years ago, the hotel. The night everything changed. Sarah's legs gave way. She stumbled back and almost collapsed. Hi, David said softly. Sarah stared at him, heart racing like a generator. He was older now, more mature, still handsome, still the same eyes that once looked into haze at night. She blinked hard. Gee. Good afternoon, sir, she stammered. I was told you wanted to see me. Yes, Miss Johnson, David said gently. Please have a seat. Sarah sat slowly, her knees trembling, her palms sweaty. I'm sorry if my son said anything out of line, sir. His very. Sarah began nervously, but David raised a hand slightly. His eyes were kind, but intense. You disappeared on me that morning, he said. Her eyes widened. No name, no note, no number. You just vanished, he added. Sarah opened her mouth, but nothing came out. He stared at her, then asked, Is Caleb mine? Her mouth dropped open. She looked at him like a child caught with stolen candy. I saw his birthmark, David said, voice softer now. It's the same as mine. The same exact shape, same spot. He leaned forward. Sarah, is he my son? Sarah looked at her fingers like they had answers. Her throat burned. She nodded slowly. Yes, she whispered. David sat back in his chair. It was the confirmation he feared and the one he needed. He exhaled, the pain mixed with relief. I want to meet him properly, he said. I want to be his father. Sarah looked up slowly. I just need a little time to process all this. Please. David nodded. Of course. That night, Sarah told Grandma Dolores everything, and Grandma shouted so loud the neighbors nearly called the fire service. Jesus is Lord. You mean the one-night man is your boss at the office? Sarah nodded, ashamed and laughing at the same time. Grandma dropped her kitchen spoon. And my grandson is now working under his old midnight mistake. God truly has humor. Sarah sighed. He wants to meet Caleb. Grandma sat slowly. Then he must come here. Let him come and see what his one night produced. Sarah looked up. You want to invite him for lunch? Grandma grinned. Yes, Saturday. Let him come. And he must come with his own elder if he has one. No sneak visits. Sarah smiled weakly. I'll tell him. Saturday came like Judgment Day. Sarah was up early vacuuming spots that didn't exist and screaming Caleb's name every 5 minutes. She couldn't breathe properly. Every time she remembered that David was coming to the house, her chest tightened like a rapper with no safety pin. Meanwhile, Grandma Dolores had turned the kitchen into a war zone. She wore her finest dress, tied her head wrap like a retired warrior queen, and cooked everything from jollof rice to pepper soup to vegetables with pounded yam. If this man wants to meet my grandson, let him meet him in a house that smells like victory, she said, slamming a pot lid. Caleb ran around in a sparkling shirt. Mommy, is today the day? Is he coming? Yes. Is it my daddy? You'll see. Is it your handsome boss? Caleb, just be good. I want to match my shoes with his shirt. By 1:15 p.m., a black SUV pulled up outside. Sarah froze. David stepped out wearing a soft blue shirt like wealth in human form. But he didn't come alone. Beside him was a tall man in a white shirt with shiny glasses. He walked with the energy of a man who had broken many hearts and still had backup confidence. They walked into the living room. Grandma, Sarah called from the door. They're here. Grandma wiped her hands and came out, adjusting her head wrap. She walked into the living room and stopped. The tray in her hand dropped. William, she whispered. Dolores, the old man in white said. Sarah looked from one face to the other. Wait, you two know each other. Grandma scoffed. No, this lying rabbit was my boyfriend in university. David blinked. What? Sarah gasped. Grandpa William raised his brows. You left me for Christopher, your so-called darling husband. You didn't even look back. I left you because I saw you kissing Patricia in the library, Grandma shouted. She kissed me. You walked in halfway and you stood there enjoying it like orange juice. I counted, William. 5 seconds. You were counting. Yes, because I was dying inside. You didn't even flinch. You didn't even ask questions. You ran off and married that choir boy. At least he didn't lie with his chest like you. I was a better man than him. You were a better liar. Make Thunder Package sense and drop it on your head. Caleb stood in the corner watching them with big eyes. This is better than all my cartoons combined. David rubbed his forehead. Sarah just sat on the nearest chair, dazed. After 10 more minutes of flying words and old secrets, they finally settled. They moved to the dining table and the food did what peace talks could not. As everyone ate, Grandpa William cleared his throat. This soup, it tastes just like I remember. You haven't lost your hand, Dolores. Grandma didn't look up. I've cooked better for people who didn't cheat on me. William smiled like he won. Sarah shook her head. This is not a family. This is Nollywood Part 4. After the table calmed down, Sarah stood up and held Caleb's hand. Caleb, baby, come here. Caleb followed, licking oil off his fingers. You've always wanted to know who your daddy is, and I've waited too long to say this. She turned to David. This is your father. Caleb froze. Wait, the real one. Sarah nodded, already crying. Caleb's eyes filled with tears. You're really my daddy. David knelt. Yes, buddy. I'm so sorry I wasn't there, but I'm here now. Caleb jumped into his arms, crying. I have a daddy. Tyler will faint tomorrow. David held him close, tears falling down his face. I will never leave again. Even Grandpa William removed his glasses and wiped his face. Grandma was crying, but also smiling like she just watched a happy ending. That evening, everyone sat in the living room. Caleb talked like a broken tap about school, his favorite teacher, and the wicked boy who stole his cookies. At night, when it was time to go, Caleb held David's hand. Please sleep here. I want to wake up and still see you. David looked at Sarah. Sarah nodded slowly. You can stay. He smiled. Then I'm not leaving. Grandpa William winked at Grandma. Grandma hissed. Face front, old devil. But she smiled anyway. That night, Sarah watched her son sleep between them. One hand on his mother's cheek, one on his father's chest. And for the first time in years, her world felt whole. Her past didn't ruin her. It brought her home. One evening, during one of David's visits to Grandma's house, he quietly pulled Sarah aside. They stepped into the backyard, just the two of them. The sky was soft with orange light, and Caleb's voice was faint in the background, giggling with Grandpa William about a frog drawing. David looked at Sarah. What now? He asked gently. What about us? Sarah looked down at her feet, unsure how to meet his eyes. I guess we'll have to learn to be co-parents, she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. David said nothing, but he wanted more than co-parenting. He wanted them to be a real family, husband, wife, and child. He didn't push. He just nodded, holding it quietly in his heart. In the weeks that followed, David and Caleb became inseparable. They went everywhere together. School drop-off, school pickup, ice cream shop, the park, the cinema. Anywhere Caleb wanted, David followed. Caleb would swing his small backpack, strut like a mini king, and say, That's my daddy. His rich and his fine. He told everyone in his class, including Tyler. You see that car? Caleb said one morning, pointing at David's black SUV. That's my daddy's car, not Uber. Real daddy. Tyler blinked. Really? Yes, he even has a driver. And I sit in front. Sarah tagged along on most of their outings. She claimed she was supervising, watching over things. But truthfully, she loved it. The laughter, the ice cream fights, the silly car games, the way David looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Her heart started doing small dances. They started spending weekends at David's house. Movie nights, cooking together, chasing Caleb around the living room. Sometimes David came to Grandma's, carrying wine and groceries like a son-in-law. Everything felt right. One quiet night after Caleb had fallen asleep on the couch wrapped in a blanket watching cartoons, David and Sarah sat in the living room sipping tea. David placed his cup down, then turned to her. Don't you think it's high time we got married? Sarah nearly spilled her drink. What? I mean, you're single. I'm single and I know we both like each other. Why don't we just make this official and start living together? Maybe even give Caleb a younger sibling. Sarah stared at him. Mr. David, are you proposing right now? Yes, I am, he said, smiling. Will you marry me, Miss Johnson? She blushed, laughed, then nodded. Yes, I will marry you. The next morning, David and Sarah sat Caleb down and told him. Caleb, baby, Sarah said gently. We have something to tell you. David held his little hand. Your mommy and I are getting married. Caleb's eyes widened like fireworks. Then he screamed loud like a siren. You're getting married for real this time? Not play wedding? Yes. Sarah smiled. Caleb jumped off the couch. I'm going to tell everyone at school, especially Tyler. Wait till he sees my suit. He ran in circles, spinning and shouting, Mommy and Daddy are getting married. Mommy and Daddy are getting married. The wedding was small but perfect. Caleb wore a white shirt with a bow tie. Grandma wore lace with heavy gold. Grandpa William ironed his shirt 3 times. During the vows, David turned to Sarah. I met you broken, but you made me whole. I'll spend the rest of my life loving you, protecting you, and thanking you for giving me Caleb. Caleb shouted, Kiss her now. The whole room laughed. David kissed Sarah. Caleb danced. One Saturday evening, a few weeks after the wedding, Sarah and David sat in the living room laughing over a bowl of popcorn while Caleb watched cartoons. Sarah leaned in closer. Have you noticed something? David raised a brow. What? She nodded toward the kitchen. Grandma and Grandpa William have been sneaking around each other too much lately. David smiled. You think they are? I think they are dating each other, Sarah whispered, giggling. David laughed. I caught them the other day in the backyard arguing about pepper soup. She made him hot pepper soup and said she was just feeling generous. Who feels generous to their ex after 40 years? I think they are rehearsing for a comeback tour. Sarah laughed so hard she spilled popcorn on the floor. Meanwhile, Caleb peeked over the couch. Are you gossiping? David raised his hand. No comment. And one day as they watched cartoons together, David leaned into Sarah and whispered, So, ready for baby number 2? Sarah raised her brow. I haven't even finished cleaning up from number 1. He laughed. She laughed. And Caleb, without context, shouted, Yes, I want a brother with curly hair and snacks. They laughed harder. A family at last. Thank you for watching. If you are just tuning into this channel for the first time, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Also share with your friends and family. It means the world to me. See you in our next story. Until I bring another intriguing story your way. Bye for now.